Today we're going to be going through the brand new struggle mechanic in UFC 5's submission system. This is kind of a follow-up to the video I put out yesterday, which was all about the basics of the new submission system. So if you haven't watched that already, I'd highly recommend you go and watch that first. The link's going to be somewhere on screen. I decided to make this a standalone video because this is kind of difficult to explain and I didn't want yesterday's video to be too long. So first of all, what is the struggle mechanic in UFC 5? When you're in the setup position for any submission in the game, you can hold R1 on PlayStation or RB on Xbox to struggle. And this drains your stamina and your opponent's stamina. I think it's kind of meant to mimic real fights where fighters are struggling for hand position when they're trying to set up a sub. One important thing to note is that both fighters can use this, so whether you're defending against the submission or attacking the submission, you can use this struggle mechanic. So you can see I'm in the setup position for an armbar with Charles Oliveira, and when I hold R1, both my stamina and my opponent's stamina starts going down. But you'll notice that we're both losing stamina at the exact same rate, so how do you use it to get an advantage? That's the tricky part, but I've broken this down into 3 different ways you can use this to get the advantage when you're attacking or defending submissions. The first way you can use this is to make a stamina advantage that you already have even greater. So what I mean by this is if you have a slight stamina advantage like I do on screen, and this can be achieved by denying a transition or maybe your opponent tried to throw some strikes or whatever, if you have a slight stamina advantage, you can use the struggle mechanic to drain your opponent's stamina even further. Yes, your stamina is going to go down too, but because of the advantage you had before you started using the struggle mechanic, theirs is lower than yours, meaning they're going to hit 0 first. And the key thing to remember here is when your opponent's stamina is at 0, they can't deny the transition when you try and finish the submission. It's literally impossible. So gain a small stamina advantage somehow, probably by denying a transition, then use the struggle mechanic to drain their stamina. They're going to hit 0 before you do, and you can finally finish the submission because now it's impossible for them to deny the transition. So essentially you can use it to turn a slight advantage into a massive advantage. You can also use the struggle mechanic to avoid stalemates. So sometimes you can get into a submission setup position and your opponent just won't move. So they don't want to risk having their transition denied, so they just sit there, wait and conserve their stamina. In these situations, hold R1 to struggle. Your opponent's going to see their stamina going down pretty quickly and they're going to panic. It's going to force them into making a move, and then you have the opportunity to deny transitions and maybe work towards finishing the submission from there. You can also use it this way if you're defending the submission. So if you have an opponent just sitting on top of you waiting for you to make a move, press R1 to struggle, they'll probably start panicking and then they'll move, which is going to open up some different opportunities for you. Lastly, you can use the struggle mechanic to mask your own transitions. So I'm going to show you different submission setup positions on screen here where I'm using the struggle mechanic. And when you're holding R1, you can see there's like a subtle animation where you both start moving and kind of struggling for position. And you can use this to confuse your opponent and hide your next move. So your opponent's going to be watching your movements really closely so they can try and deny your transitions, and quickly tapping R1 every now and then to start this animation can throw them off and make it harder to predict which way you're going. And this is another one that you can use even when you're defending against the submission. So just tap R1, fake it every now and then to start the animation, and it will throw them off when they're trying to deny your transitions. Real quick, I also just wanted to address this because it's a really good question. This guy just asked in the comments of my last video if you can hold R1 to struggle and then deny transitions at the same time. I just tested this in the training arena as I was recording, and yes, you can deny transitions while holding the struggle button. Alright, so those are the 3 ways I've been using the struggle mechanic in UFC 5 so far. It's still pretty early into the game, so I'm sure we'll figure out some other ways it can be useful, but for now, these 3 methods are going to help you a lot in both attacking and defending subs. If you found this helpful, drop a like and subscribe for more UFC 5 tutorials over the next few weeks.